A very good morning to you and welcome to the sunshine at Hockenheim for the final round of the FIA Formula 3 European Championship. 3 races to come on this 4.574 kilometre circuit as the championship reaches its conclusion. What a dramatic championship it has been, dominated by one Prema Power team driver who drives the number 1 car, Lance Stroll, who will be going from pole position. My learned friend alongside me, who's encyclopedic with his knowledge of Formula 3 statistics, his 13th pole position. Of course, he has already done enough to seal the championship. That championship was sealed at Imola just a couple of weeks ago. But we come here, and he has already made it very, very clear that Lance Stroll wants to go out on an absolute high. It really has been a dramatic year for him. We've got a couple of cars starting from the pit lane. We'll tell you all about that in due course. And we've also got some grid penalties to come for George Russell and Nico Carey as well. But alongside me, from the motorsportarchive.com, it's Leo Gorman. What a season it's been for Formula 3.
Yeah, absolutely wonderful season, Dave, with some fantastic racing and a champion declared at the penultimate round at Imola. Lance Stroll, as you said, he's been imperious. It's so often, for so often in races this year, and doing so well again this weekend. 2 pole positions. I think he's starting second on the grid in race 3 tomorrow. It's, as you said, his 13th pole position of the season. His 14th is going to be coming up later on today. He's got such a huge gap over second place in the championship. Maxi Gunther, he's 136 ahead. That just shows just how dominant he's actually been. It's particularly since the 4th round of Red Bull Ring, where that run of several race wins in a row just really put a nail on this championship.
What's been interesting about him as a character is, and we were discussing this off the air yesterday as we look at 2 cars that will be starting from the pit lane. As I say, we'll come to that in just a moment, but we continue with the Lance Stroll story just for the moment. What's been really interesting this year is to see the change in Lance, not only as a racing driver, but also as a character as well. And I said yesterday off the air, it's almost like he's suppressed himself. And you know, he is a very, very different individual this year. Very, very focused, structured in the way he's gone about everything. And there have been times where the win has not been possible. And let's be truthful, he's had so many wins this year. But where he hasn't been able to take the win, you've seen that he's been working towards that championship. And, you know, it's just been a really, really mature head upon which he has driven his entire campaign this year. Would you agree?
Dave, he's 18 years old in just over 2 weeks. He's still very much a teenager, and yes, sometimes we are guilty of forgetting that little aspect that these guys are just teenagers. They're young men who are maybe not as fully developed, shall we say, as people.
Of course.
And it's great to see that kind of development. He was, you know, a very typical teenager at times last year, but he's really growing into be quite a steady gentleman, shall we say.
So we just saw Lance Stroll then, who's wearing a new crash helmet for this weekend. It looks all black, but it's actually got signatures of every team member on that, and that's just a thank you back to the Prema Power team. And we continue with Prema Power team because going from P2 on the grid, and P2, of course, in the points is Maximilian Gunther. Then we look at the car number 18 of Jake Hughes, who is in for this weekend. Jake Hughes, then the returning Carlin team, and Carlin having missed out on a couple of rounds. They weren't at Imola, they weren't at Nürburgring, but they're here in full effect with Jake Hughes as just one of their drivers.
Yes, Jake Hughes, who's been racing in other single-seater championships this year. The 2 other drivers, Dan Tinktum and Lando Norris. Lando Norris, who some people who are familiar with junior motorsports may have heard he's been very successful this year in Formula Renault.
Taken both the Northern European Championship and also the Euro Cup as well.
To say the least. Now, both Tinktum and Norris are actually starting from the pit lane because they've actually done a large amount of F3 testing this year.
Yes. So they've gone over the test days allowed.
They've gone over the test days allowed, and because they've hit that limit, they're entering from the pit lane today.
Ralph Aron that we look at then, who goes from P5. Of course, Ralph Aron made the step up to the FIA Formula 3 European Championship for them, the German Formula 4 Championship. Ralph Aron then. And then we look at the Antoine Hubert car of Van Amersfoort Racing. And it's really interesting little anecdote. I was at Jerez Circuit last weekend, and at the rental car depot, the manager of the rental car depot, once she realised I was there for motor racing purposes, talk about an ambassador for Van Amersfoort Racing. She said, "Oh, do you know this? Do you know Fritz? Do you know?" Because of course Jerez is one of the tracks that they use for testing, of course. So.
And on Hubert, key weekend for this young Frenchman. He is, of course, battling for the rookie championship with Joel Eriksson. Now, to be fair, it has to be said, Joel Eriksson is...
he's got a margin, hasn't he?
He's got it's a 58-point margin over Hubert, and the chances are he could wrap this up after this race. But... it's very important now because there's prize money on offer for the top three in the Rookie Championship. There's a €200,000 pot for the top three drivers in the rookie standings. Now, the highest finishing rookie in the championship will get €100,000 for next season if they use it for Formula 3. And the drivers who finish second and third in the rookie standings will get €50,000 each. But again, it's used for the FIA European Formula 3 Championship.
And that's a healthy lump into the budget, isn't it? Let's be truthful. It's a meaningful amount. Nikita Mazepin then from High Tech GP is going from P9 on the grid. The thumbs up from Nikita then. Nikita Mazepin then, as I say, going from P9 on the grid, just behind Joel Eriksson, as we look at Alexander Sims. Now, Alexander Sims was the topic of much of our conversation on the drive down from the airport here to the circuit yesterday. Somewhat delayed, may I add. He is the sort of guy you can just put into a car and know that he's going to deliver a result for you, Lee.
Sims is a man in demand, and there's a reason for that. Not just as a racing driver, but as a test driver as well. Alexander did an awful lot of the testing for High Tech at the end of last year before they entered into the championship. He's done a lot of work for T-Sport over the years as well, and got a podium for them at Macau a couple of years ago. He is a guy, he just jumps into a car and he just races, and he's always quick, he's consistent, he's fast. It's what you want in a racing driver.
Presumably there's an ulterior motive here, and that's the entry from Macau.
How
dare I? Forgive me. How dare I? But yes, Alexander Sims, one of those drivers that is always going to deliver. There is the crash helmet that we were talking about just a few moments ago, that Lance Stroll is wearing in testament to the support that he's had from the Prema Power team this year. He's going from pole position once again.
And it's a nice touch. It has to be. It's a very nice touch. The team have worked very, very hard for Lance this year.
Can I interject and just say they've made some errors as well?
They have made quite a few errors as well. That's cost them on occasion with some penalties here and there.
But that just again reinforces the maturity of Lance now, where he said, we win and we lose together. And, he's not throwing his dummies out of the pram, his toys out of the pram. He's been as good as gold about it, hasn't he? And
maybe last year, the early part of last year, he may have kind of lost his head a little bit in that kind of situation. But you know what? You're absolutely right. He's kind of banked those situations. He's put it to experience, and his approach has been, well, you know what? We'll just fight back and do what we can to get the best result possible.
What amazed me was I recall the situation at Zandvoort where they ran what was effectively an illegal part on the car.
Yeah, it was the suspension connectors or something like that, yes.
He knew that even banking points was going to be an impossibility, so he's using it as a test session, wasn't he? And he was bringing data back for the engineers, just a really, really mature attitude. Okay, you can see the Racing Steps Foundation logo on the wing of Ben Barnicoat's car then, who's going from further down the order than he would like, P15, as the cars are off on their formation lap, and it's another very, very healthy grid of the FIA Formula 3 European Championship. We reach race number 28. 3 races to come from here at Hockenheim to round out what has been a phenomenally successful season once again for the single-seater series. Peter Mucker then, who you can see walking down the pit lane, he takes so much serious involvement in the performance of the FIA Formula 3 European Championship from the Mucker Motorsport viewpoint. The grid in full for you: Stroll and Gunter, then it's Hughes and Cassidy, Ralph Aron and Antoine Hubert, Callum Eilert, Joel Eriksson, Nikita Mazepin and Alexander Sims then round out the first 5 rows of the grid for race number 28 with Guan Yu Xu. Then it's Sergio Seta Camara, Pedro Piquet, Harrison Newey, Ben Barnicoat, Mikkel Jensen, Chang, Beckman, Russell and Kari then round out the rows from 5 to 10. And, well, there we have it. The cars continuing on their way around this perfectly dry 4.574 kilometre circuit.
And we just mentioned a few moments ago about Ben Barnicott starting from lower down the order than he would like. And
Yes.
another driver starting lower down than he
Yes.
would normally would be is Nico Kari, who comes into this race with a 23-place grid penalty, Dave.
Yes. He was offered the opportunity to start from Stuttgart, but chose to go right at the...
Well, I think he likes the atmosphere in Hockenheim. Kari had 2 engine penalties, which actually carries a 10-place grid penalty each, and he also had a 3-place grid penalty for an incident at the penultimate round in Imola. A couple of weeks ago.
And of course, all those tot up, don't they? There is the track then, the 4.574 kilometre circuit, which is challenging, that's for sure. But the conditions, just an hour up the road, it's raining, but there's no sign of rain here, and we hope that continues for the rest of the weekend. Cars make their way back to their grid boxes then, and first race action due on track comes from the FIA Formula 3 European Championship as Lance Stroll puts his car into the grid box then to start yet another race in what has been a phenomenally successful season for the young man. And where does he go from here? Well, of course, the rumours are rife, and whilst there's absolutely no confirmation of anything yet. So, Lee, you're pointing out at something down there. Is that with the Jake Hughes car?
A lot of smoke coming from what looks like brakes from Jake Hughes' car. I wonder if he's overcooked them or if there may be an issue there.
Lance Stroll and Gerhard Berger, of course. Gerhard Berger could be argued was the architect of the success of the current FIA Formula 3 European Championship when he was the single-seater commissioner for the FIA. That position now held, of course, by Stefano Domenicali. So, 3 lights, 4, 5. When the lights are out, we're away and racing. It's another textbook start from Lance Stroll as he heads in towards turn number 1. Maximilian Günther right behind then as the rest of the cars come through. They all run just a little bit wide in turn 1.
And I think Nick Cassidy has actually nicked P3 ahead of Hughes going into turn 1 there as Lance Stroll locks up, goes a little bit wide. Does this give Günther an opportunity to go for the lead as they come round turn 3? Not quite yet, but now coming down towards the Parabolica.
So these are side by side now. Maximilian Günther and Lance Stroll as they head up towards the hairpin here. So what can Stroll do to defend that position?
And Cassidy's there as well. Stroll on the inside. He's got the tight apex coming in. Günther in the middle. Cassidy on the outside. Will he go for the lead? No, it's Günther going to hold on as Cassidy goes wide. Stroll back into second place.
So, and load of cars running out onto the runoff area, but I think they've all got going once again as Lance Stroll is continuing to try and wrestle back that P1 position. Look at this battle between the three of them. There's contact.
They've touched. It is Stroll and Günther have come side by side into the Mercedes, and it looks as if Cassidy's going to be the big winner there.
Absolutely take advantage now. Lance Stroll has got his nose back in front once again following that contact. So Nick Cassidy now is P2. The big loser in that, of course, was Maximilian Günther.
Now, I just wonder, was there any damage for the two front runners there as they made contact on the entry into the Mercedes, and you can see Stroll makes a switch back, goes for the gap. It's not quite there. And interestingly enough, the actual contact probably turned Stroll back onto the racing line more than anything else and allowed him to keep the lead.
I think you're right.
Cassidy and Günther, who's now third. But are they damaged?
There was advantage for him there, wasn't he, in terms of you're putting the car back into exactly the position that it needs to be. So Stroll, Cassidy, Günther are on. And then it's Seta Kamara, Ericsson, Hubert, Mazepin. Then the top 8 with Hughes and Guan Yu Zhu. And coming down the pit lane there, that's Mikkel Jensen.
Yeah, it has not been a good weekend for the Mucken Motorsport guys. Jensen was actually towards the back of the field after qualifying for race 1. His teammate David Beckman was originally on pole position, but got disqualified from qualifying because of illegal bodywork. Look at that gaggle of cars as they all come through the first section of this lap around the hairpin and back out towards the stadium section. Some debris going off there.
It's one of the little end plates, wasn't it? Just flying off the front nose of the car. A battle's going on wherever we look at the moment, and in the mix there is Guan Yu Zhu in the number 23 car.
With Jake Hughes, who's actually had a horrible first couple of laps.
Yes.
He's dropped down to 9th place. And I think he really lost out. Firstly, he lost out off the line when he got taken by Nick Cassidy, but also got shuffled down the order as the field kind of made itself in the first few turns.
Okay, the cars have Lance Stroll and also Maximilian Gunter under investigation for that contact that we saw as another lap gets completed here at Hockenheim. It's Stroll, Cassidy, Gunter, Aron. Then it's Kamara, Ericsson, Hubert and Mazepin.
The thing is, Dave, Maxi Gunther really doesn't want this race to go wrong. He's currently second in the championship. He's got a healthy lead over third place George Russell. It's not quite done yet. Gunther needs to score 8 more points than Russell this weekend to actually secure second place in the championship. It could be easily done as Ben Barnicle comes into the pits with a very broken front wing.
That's significant damage on the Ben Barnicle car. I'm not sure we've seen live how that damage occurred.
I wonder who he went into the back of, and I feel we may see it now into the hairpin, and it is into the back of...
That was the car of...
Sims. That's Alexander Sims,
the high-tech GP driver, yeah. So Barnicle there on Alexander Sims, and actually it looked from the angle that we saw that Ben Barnicle just came from a little bit too far back and carried a little bit too much more speed into that and collided into the back of Alexander Sims.
There's a lot of compression coming into that hairpin, Dave, as the field really comes together.
Yes.
And sometimes if Sims is in a battle there were several cars around him, he brakes a little bit earlier, and Ben Barnicle probably braking where he normally does, just goes into the back of the guy in front, which happened right there.
So already we've seen a number of cars with damage then in this, the opening race of 3 for the FIA Formula 3 European Championship here at Hockenheim, the final round of the 2016 season. As we look at the number 20 car of Harrison Newey, here's a replay of the start, Lee, and it was a textbook start once again from Lance Stroll.
It was very good start, the way he rolled off the line, absolutely inch perfect. Gunther again, very good getaway, but it was just Jake Hughes who was sluggish away from his grid box, gave Cassidy a run down into turn 1, which he was able to solidify as they exited that first corner. But it was when Stroll locked up into turn 2 there, that's what gave Gunther and Cassidy the opportunity to go for the lead.
And we can see them virtually 3 abreast, weren't they, around the Parabolica before they got out of the hairpin, and now this is where it all livened up.
The thing is, Dave, it's Prema Power Team 1, Prema Power Team 2, Prema Power Team 3, Prema Power Team P4. You wouldn't think there'd been a battle for the lead between the group of them.
Just for information here, car number 21 is under investigation for being in an incorrect grid position. Now, that's Antoine Hubert, who is currently running P7. Now, if a penalty should be awarded to Hubert from P7, that's going to really hurt. Also under investigation is the little incident that we saw a few moments ago between Alexander Sims and Ben Barnicle.
And the thing with Antoine Hubert with the incorrect grid position, when you talk about it, they don't mean that he's slotted into the wrong grid slot altogether.
Might be a centimetre, mightn't it?
It could just be that he's slightly out of position in his own grid box, maybe a little bit too far, as Callum Isla comes into the pits, and it looks like day over for the young Briton. Oh, it's unfortunate for Callum, who was looking for some solid points this year. The Van Amersfoort team were a little bit frustrated yesterday, where they were struggling with top-end speed during qualifying, and it left them kind of mid-grid, which admittedly, we're talking, when I say mid-grid, that's only half a second off of pole position. It left them mired in the field. They were looking for good points, and it just, once again, it's a disappointing day for Callum.
Yeah, that's a great shame to see. So Callum Isla out of the car, out of the race then, out of race number 1, which is being led by Lance Stroll, with Nick Cassidy P2 and Maximilian Gunter P3, and Ralph Aron is P4. A bit of a Prema fest at the moment. So Antoine Hubert then, that incorrect grid position, as you can see, he's currently chasing down Joel Ericsson then, who is running in P6. As there we see the car of Cassidy and Maximilian Gunter go through. Sergio Kamara, who's a solid performance in P5 at the moment, just ahead of Ericsson and Hubert in that battle that's going on for P6 with Nikita Mazepin, Guan Yu Zhu and George Russell rounding out the top 10 at the moment.
The thing is, Dave, there's a lot of drivers here who want to end this championship on a high point, whether that be Ralph Aron in 4th place or Sergio Kamara in 5th place, because they're looking forward to 2017, and they want to finish the season on a high note and show the potential backers, potential sponsors, potential teams that, you know what, we are capable of very good results, very strong performances. You know, they want to be able to slide themselves into the top teams in 2017, and you know, this is just part of it. Of course, they're going to look at this championship as a whole and see where they've come. Ralph Aron and Sergio Kamara have done decent jobs this year. So it'll be interesting to see how their careers developed as we go into 2017.
Absolutely, all of them with an eye on 2017 campaigns. But Lance Stroll, may I just say, has already opened up a margin of some 2.1 seconds over Nick Cassidy in P2 and Maximilian Gunter a further 0.5 back in P3. This is where Stroll has just been so commanding this year, and I think where we have seen the absolute best of him, as once he's got his nose in front, he doesn't make errors. He nails every apex. He gets every corner absolutely right. Look at his lap time. He is the only one that's running in the 132s.
I promise I will not make a Stroll is strolling away with this.
Don't do that one.
Again.
That's awful. Right. This is Ericsson and Hubert then continuing their battle. And, of course, joining into that as well as Nikita Mazepin 2. Escaping up the road is Sergio Setakamara. You could just see in the number 9 car. But here comes Anton Hubert once again, absolutely hounding the Joel Ericsson car ahead. But Ericsson has got the right line for the next turn. And Hubert goes for the quick cut back there, but he's not going to be able to make it happen. So for the moment, Joel Ericsson, who's making that Formula 3 car as wide as he possibly can to deny Antoine Hubert, who is the man chasing down from P7 at the moment. Joel Ericsson then is the one that is in P6, driving, of course, for the Moto Park team, as opposed to Joel Ericsson, who is running, of course, for the Moto Park team. Antoine Hubert for Van Amersfoort. There, the order: Stroll, Cassidy, Gunter are on. Setakamara, Ericsson, Hubert, and the Mazepin battle that we've been watching, which is raging for P6, 7 and 8 at the moment.
And George Russell, we mentioned earlier on in that battle for second and third in the championship, he's actually made his way into the top 10 now,
yes,
having started in 19th position. Of course, he's got grid penalties for the course of this weekend because he's had an engine change. He loses 10 positions in each qualifying session, Dave.
George is one of those drivers. Last year I expected a lot of. This year I expected more. And for whatever reason, it hasn't quite happened, Lee.
I was chatting to George and Imola a couple of weeks ago, and he was explaining to me that they went the wrong direction, they feel, possibly in setup in the middle part of the season, because both, if we mustn't forget, George Russell and Ben Barnicoat were taking race wins at the beginning of this year, and they kind of got lost on setup in the middle of this year, and while they're going in a good direction again, they've not quite caught up with the likes of Prema and Van Amersfoort and Motor Park, who've just been nailing the results in the meantime.
Nick Cassidy now under a bit of pressure from Maximilian Gunter as the battle hots up for P2 at the moment. There is a mere 4 or 5 tenths between the two of them running in P2 and P3. There is Nick Cassidy. There is Maximilian Gunter then. So Gunter hounding Nick Cassidy now. Lance Stroll is away up the road by some 3 seconds as he clears another few tenths. And again, he's running in the mid 132s. Whereas everyone else is in the low 133s. Interestingly, Maximilian Gunter was quicker than Nick Cassidy last time around, Lee. And
Nick just wants a clean weekend. He's had some very strange incidents in several parts of this year as we watch a replay. This is Jake Hughes going down the inside.
That's George Russell, isn't it?
George Russell, yeah. So that's a position, that's 10th place. So Hughes takes the points position off of George Russell. As we've got a move coming down to the hairpin, it's Maxi Gunter going down the inside of Nick Cassidy. Will he get it done? He does this time, but Cassidy gets a run exiting the corner. Can he go alongside as they come down into the towards the stadium section and towards Mercedes? There's a right-hander here, but Gunter holds on. There's a switch back again. Gunter keeps the inside, Cassidy on the outside, and he locks a brake, and they fall back now to the left-hand turn, exiting Mercedes and towards the stadium section.
Gunter's done it. So Gunter then ahead of Nick Cassidy now, and whilst all that was going on, we've been told that Anton Hubert in car number 21, because of that incorrect grid position, is going to get a 5-second time penalty, and that is going to knock him down the order from P7, isn't it?
That's going to knock him down to 14th place, Dave.
That's going to hurt.
Now,
this in replay then is the battle between Nick Cassidy and Maximilian Gunter, which all started really from the exit of the hairpin, didn't it? Now, I thought Cassidy had done enough here, but he wasn't quite far enough alongside Maximilian Gunter going into the next turn. So those places have been changed around.
To put Hubert's penalty into context, by the way, 5-second time added on. We say now that'll drop him down to 14th position in the standings. But as the race goes on and as the gaps between all the positions increase, that could kind of nullify itself. And he'll hopefully maybe have try and get some damage limitation and maybe still take a penalty, but only drop down to 10th or something like that. That's going to be the aim.
could be into the points, that would be good. Right, Lance Stroll then continues his dominance now. He's increased his margin to some 4 seconds. The Prema Power Team star, the champion, the 2016 FIA Formula 3 European Championship. You can see Maximilian Günther and Nick Cassidy, and Ralph Aron now just beginning to reel in Nick Cassidy as well from P4. We'll keep an eye on that. There's exactly a second between Cassidy and Aron for P3 and P4.
That battle between Günther and Cassidy last lap round slowed them down significantly. Yes. Cassidy actually ended up doing a mid 134.
Whoa!
And another big lock up there from Nick, I believe. It's brought Aaron back into it. There's going to be a feisty battle now for third place as Pedro Piquet goes off the circuit, regains it ahead of Nico Kari, who's battling his way back up the order. That's for battle for 14th and 15th place at the moment.
So Kari up to P15.
After starting in Stuttgart.
Absolutely. He was a long way down the order, wasn't he? So Stroll then, you can see, leading by 4.1 seconds now, is increased by another tenth or so. David Beckman then, who we watch in battle. The familiar colours of Muka Motorsport battling hard there with Pedro Piquet, which caused Piquet to lose a place and go off wide onto the runoff area.
I think that may have been a little bit over-optimistic from Pedro, to be honest. To try and go around the outside there and hold it was not really a move that was going to come off. But Beckman, 12th place after starting 20th, after having his time excluded after qualifying. Good effort from the 16-year-old.
There is Ralph Aron then in P4 at the moment, and as I say, just getting a little bit closer to Cassidy. Günther is up the road now, isn't he? And clearly has got a real pace advantage over Nick Cassidy. And there is the 21 car of Antoine Hubert, who we've mentioned has got that 5-second time penalty to be added. He's currently running in P7, and the battle with Joel Eriksson has not lived up to expectations quite. Meantime, a little bit further back, Lee.
Guan Yu Zhu and Jake Hughes and George Russell. Some battle there for the lower edge of the points. It's 9th, 10th and 11th place at the moment. Beckman, of course, in the background there in the orange colour Muka car as well. It's been a good weekend, a solid weekend for Jake Hughes, who's normally a GP3 racer. To come in, he's not had a huge amount of F3 running, some testing here and there, but he's made a solid effort this weekend, and a good effort by the Carlin team, who've come back after missing 2 rounds as well.
Yeah, really good that they're back. Lando Norris, incidentally, is running in P16 ahead of Harrison Newey, who's P17. Tictum then is P18.
Actually, Lando Norris just in the background there, running Alessio his old livery, the incredibly bright blue and yellow car, which it can be seen from several miles away if your eyesight is just right.
Okay. Thank you.
I've got very good glasses, I can see them.
Binos, really. Right, to the hairpin we go then, and Joel Eriksson and Anton Hubert lighting up their battle once again.
And this is the battle over 6th and 7th place. Hubert getting a good exit out of the hairpin. He's down the inside. Can he solidify it as they go into the right-hander? He does, but Eriksson still has the inside of the corner as they go into Mercedes. Oh, and just edges back ahead of the Frenchman. And you know what? Hubert probably could have been a little bit more aggressive in closing the door there, if I'm to be critical of him. There is still a kind of some drivers, they necessarily don't want to end up having an incident or an accident, and well, there are points when you can probably just say close the door, the position is mine, thank you very, very much. And Hubert, by the way, with his 5-second penalty, he is now at the stage where it would drop him to only 11th place.
Okay.
So, but really getting ahead of Eriksson would have put him into free air. He could have actually made a lot more there. What
that has done is their battle has brought Mazepin back into it, and also Guan Yu Zhu and even potentially Jake Hughes. Here we can see it again in replay. Now, it's all very well for you to say, I think he could have been a bit more committed and a bit more, do you know what I mean?
I think what Anton's there, he's actually pulled to the right-hand side onto the racing line probably far, far, far too early.
Okay.
On the exit of that corner.
Right.
As they go towards the Mercedes bend, and just left the door too wide open for Eriksson to just kind of slip through.
Okay. Of course, it's easy for us to, well, we talk about it, we don't go out there and do it, do we? But the battle will continue to rage, as indeed it does now. Ericsson then to the outside. Hubert right alongside. And it's a different scenario this lap now, isn't it? As Hubert just takes a look now. He's carrying a lot more speed this time, but again...
I just feel that on the exit of that corner, as now Hubert slots into the inside as the exit, Mercedes is still not enough because Ericsson has a good enough exit to actually solidify sixth place. I just think Hughes is taking, or sorry, not Hughes, but Hubert is taking too much of a right-hand line on the way into Mercedes and allowing Ericsson enough of a slip roll through to keep the position.
Well, where once Mazepin was buying into that battle, he's having to defend hard from Guan Yu Zhu and Jake Hughes at the moment, as we see Stroll go through, who has now just a tenth under a 5-second margin over Maximilian Günther and Nick Cassidy. Then it's Ralph Aron. Out on his own, really, a little bit is Sergio Seta Camara running in P5 before we get to that battle of Ericsson, Hubert and Mazepin, and also Guan Yu Zhu and Jake Hughes, George Russell and Alexander Sims buying into that a bit as well, although he's still a further 4 seconds down the road from that battle that continues to rage and we focus our attention on once again. But you have to be honest, it's been good defensive driving here from Joel Eriksson.
He's doing a very good job, and he's got a very good head on his shoulders, does young Joel, whose brother Jimmy is here this weekend, the former European F3 racer as well, as Eriksson continues to defend from Huber and Mazepin coming into the hairpin, but the group behind him, they're just catching the right there with Zhu, Hughes, Russell right on the... that's now a 6-way battle for sixth position.
Fantastic racing that we're watching here. So there is Joel Eriksson, who's seemingly got it all under control at the moment, and Antoine Hubert just running out of the dirty air just momentarily before he will mount another campaign, I'm sure. But Nikita Mazepin is standing by, also ready to take advantage if the warring faction of the two cars ahead that are battling over P5 should go awry. He wants to be able to take advantage of that.
Meanwhile, we see Ralph Aron on screen now, the young Estonian, fourth place in this race. He's had kind of a little bit of an inconsistent year, it must be said. He's been quick in some races, and then there's been other events where he's just kind of almost disappeared off the radar to a degree. But when he has been quick, he's shown he has got an awful lot of speed and an awful lot of talent, and we just need to see more of that.
To go back to what you were saying right at the beginning of the programme, what we shouldn't lose sight of is the fact that these drivers are very, very young men in their developing motorsport careers, aren't they? From each and every lap that they take, they gain more experience and they develop their craft out there on track, and it's fascinating and wonderful for us to be able to watch it.
Indeed, absolutely. And speaking of young men battling, we have Mazepin and Hughes fighting hard there for positions.
How many moves in defence did Mazepin do there going in towards the hairpin?
I think we may see a little bit of an investigation about that. Speaking of which, we do see the earlier incident between Lance Stroll and Maxi Günther is going to be investigated after the race,
right,
as is the incident between Alexander Sims and Ben Barnicoat. The steward's going to be looking at that as well, because excessive moving across his track, it's not considered a good racing etiquette, shall we say.
Etiquette. Good word there. Okay, so whilst they continue, of course, now Joel Eriksson is being advantaged a bit because he's getting up the road, and Antoine Hubert is just beginning to drop back, isn't he? And he's dropping back into the clutches of Mazepin, Hughes, Zhu, Russell, and Sims is going to be in that battle not long away either. So there in replay, super slow-mo of our race leader, who is leading by some 5 seconds, and that is Lance Stroll.
I do wonder, in that battle with Ericsson earlier on, has Hubert used the best of his tyres now?
Possibly so.
And that's where it makes it even more critical to actually make the moves stick. Because if you take too much out of your tyres...
You're not going to get another go, are you?
You're not going to get another go, because as the tyre grip ebbs away, so does the opportunity. And he's been behind Ericsson for quite a long time in this race. He's had the dirty air. The front end of the car's been sliding around the place. I fear that may be it for the battle between Ericsson and Hubert. But at the moment, Hubert's probably more concerned about what Nikita Mazepin's doing in his rear mirrors.
I absolutely agree with you there.
And we do have a move. I believe it's Jake Hughes trying again on Nikita Mazepin for That is 8th place still, and they're getting so feisty. And they go side by side down the parabolic into the hairpin. And not quite. And he's finally done it. Jake Hughes does it into Mercedes. He takes a position, but does Mazepin come back in the inside?
Well, we'll put the cars up now as they're absolutely side by side. This battle between Jake Hughes and Nikita Mazepin, and Jake Hughes surely now has done enough to deny Nikita Mazepin as they go into the stadium section now. Also trying to buy into that is Guan Yu Zhu also.
He's nailed it. Absolutely brilliant effort by Jake Hughes. That's how you nail the position coming through Mercedes and into the following stadium section. Because once you get into the stadium section, it's almost impossible to get the move back unless the driver ahead makes a mistake.
George Russell is looking lively now as he closes in on Guan Yu Zhu. So, well, it was a little while coming, but when it did come, it was really, really good to watch, wasn't it?
It's good, decisive racing, and that's what we like to see in the FIA European Formula 3 Championship, Dave.
Under 10 minutes of the race left to run.
And as well as that, it must be noted, that battle between Hughes and Mazepin has given Hubert a 2-second advantage over the cars behind. As we see a replay now of a lock-up, that is Chang, I believe, Andy Chang, who locks up going into the stadium section. He's not had the strongest of weekends, it must be said. He's been in and out of Formula 3 over the last couple of years. He's not had a consistent run, shall we say, in these cars, but he's getting track time now with the T-Sport guys. Yeah, he's doing a solid job down in 19th place at the moment in the 134s and 135s.
Super slow-mo replay we watch there. And this then, Nikita Mazepin and Guan Yu Zhu. Guan Yu Zhu has just been sitting back watching all this unfold ahead of him, trying to take advantage, and Nikita Mazepin there having to defend, but there the huge lock-up, which was always going to fail, wasn't it? Carrying too much speed, give it back, give the place back.
I wonder, we get to this stage of the race, and the drivers only have several sets of tyres for the whole weekend that they're going to make last through practice qualifying 3 races. So I wonder, does Zhu actually have to use those tyres again? Is he going to have to run them in race 2 or race 3?
Hope not.
He's going to have his teeth rattled out of his head if he does.
Lance Stroll then around Parabolic and then heading up towards the hairpin. He's just controlling this beautifully, isn't it? It's 4.8 seconds. Nick Cassidy has, in P3, is now some 7.4 seconds down, and split in the middle there is Maximilian Gunter in P2, with Ralph Aron running in P4. Before, as I said earlier, Sergio Setakamara is kind of in a race of his own, isn't he, in P5? He's neither chasing nor being chased.
It's a solid performance by a motor park driver. Good effort as Guan Yu Zhu continues in his battle with Nikita Mazepin and is ahead. Or no, sorry, that's Alexander Sims. That's just that the other high-tech driver is just behind him. My apologies. Mazepin's still ahead. The gap, they're very, very, very close together. Only tenths of a second as George Russell goes past Guan Yu Zhu, and that's for 10th place, the final points position. And I fear, Dave, it's not enough for George Russell, who now has to fight. It's Guan Yu Zhu fighting a battle with Alexander Sims over 11 places. They get really feisty coming into the stadium section, but Sims nails the position. It's only for 11th place, but he really solidified his mark on that move there.
Absolutely, and he was using all his experience around this Hockenheim circuit, wasn't he? And he just he was not going to be denied. So let's see it again in replay.
Oh, and that is Lando Norris, who's had a collision with Pedro Piquet coming into the Mercedes corner.
Piquet's been off there a few times in this race, hasn't he? So
probably helped a little bit there on that occasion.
I agree. Yeah, and Pedro Piquet not having a great time of it running down there in P16.
As we see now, Maxi Gunther at 2nd place coming into the hairpin. Now, his rival for 2nd in the championship, George Russell, is down in 10th place as Lando Norris comes into the pits. Probably a little bit of damage in that incident. Maybe some. I think he took a dink on the suspension on the right front there.
Lando Norris has had a phenomenal season, not in the FIA Formula 3 European Championship, but in the 2 campaigns in Formula Renault that he has won both championships in. Been absolute double bubble for Lando Norris, who sadly in race 1 here is out of the car, and his race is over following that contact.
I think that was probably one move, probably too many for Lando. It's unfortunate, but you know what, if you damage the suspension even by the tiniest margin, I'm sorry, your race is done.
Well, that incident involving himself and the number 5 car of Pedro Piquet is another one of those that's going to be investigated after the race. It's going to be busy this stewards, aren't they?
I think we may finally see the stewards at some time on Monday afternoon when they're finishing with the investigations. Just to finish the point between Gunther and Russell, Gunther only needed an additional 8 points over Russell to solidify second in the championship. That's easily done if the positions stay as they are. Gunther in second place will get 18 points. Russell in 10th will only get 1. That is enough. That would be enough to solidify second for Maxi.
So we're looking at some super slow-mo replay here of Nick Cassidy.
It's a third place man, really giving the curbs an absolute... You know what? The Prema guys are going to wince looking at that a little. What are they doing to the floor of my car?
But they wring the neck out of these cars, don't they? And just look at Ralph Aron now, who's got the hurry up. Ralph Aron running in P4. Some 9.8 down, as you can see, on Lance Stroll, who is just managing that gap perfectly at the front over Maximilian Gunther, isn't he? He's just playing with him because it's seesawing between 4.8, 4.95, and now it's 5.1. So whenever Maximilian Gunther just gains a little bit, Lance is able to respond, isn't he?
Yeah, that's the measure of Lance Stroll, the driver, at the moment. The way he just banks that Gunther is closing in on him, and he just all he needs to do is extend himself a little bit further and just bring the gap back to what it was. As we see Joel Eriksson, 6th place man, top rookie in the championship this year, and again he's not far from solidifying that championship. Good effort from Joel today. Fought hard against Antoine Hubert to defend that position, and fought hard, fought fair. Good effort.
It's exactly what we want to see, isn't it? With Lance Stroll, then Maximilian Gunther, Nick Cassidy, and Ralph Aron then. And then, as I've said on a few occasions, Sergio Seta Camara, and then Joel Eriksson running really sideways. They almost drifting the car through the final turn, but great to watch it was. So the number 22 car of Joel Eriksson ahead of Antoine Hubert is running in P7. Bear in mind he's got that time penalty to come. Then it's Hughes, Mazepin and George Russell, as you say, into the points, but not going to be enough, is it, for P10? And Alexander Sims just outside the points at the moment in P11.
But as it stands at the moment, the Hubert penalty will drop him down to 11th place and promote Sims into 10th place.
Fair point. So up towards the hairpin they come now.
And it's Jake Hughes against Antoine Hubert. Is the Frenchman going to lose another position? The former French Formula 4 champion against the GP3 race winner. Jake Hughes, he's a guy with building a good reputation for himself. Hard racer, very good racing driver. He's on the outside. Coming into Mercedes, not going to work there. They're running out of time, only 2 minutes left in this race, which I think probably equates to maybe 3 laps or something along those lines. If Hughes is going to make the position work, he has to do it now.
Because that's the battle going on between Van Amersfoort and Carlin as well, to the fine squads and teams involved in the FIA Formula 3 European Championship. The dominant team at the front of the pack at the moment, though, is Prema Power Team with the top 4 cars with Stroll, Gunther, Cassidy and Ralph Aron. On screen, as you can see, is the 1, 2, 3, 4. As we continue to watch this battle going on here, there's Antoine Hubert and there Jake Hughes. And this is the battle, it should be remembered, for P7 at the moment. Joel Eriksson is up the road in P6, and Sergio Seta Camara once again out there on his own running in P5.
And you know what, it is one of the, I think it's Piquet actually ran wide coming out of the final corner. It is something of a friendly, but it's a bit of a needling battle between all the teams. They're all good associates, good acquaintances, get on very well together.
Absolutely.
But when it comes to the racetrack,
pride, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. The Van Amersfoort guys are going, we're going to beat the Carlin boys today, and the Carlin boys, well, you know what, we're actually going to beat the Van Amersfoort boys today.
Healthy respect between them all, as you say, but at the end of the day, each and every one wants to do the very, very best they can, and Lance Stroll is proving why he is the 2016 FIA Formula 3 European champion with another supremely commanding performance where he's leading this race by some 5.2 seconds. Now, bear in mind, he didn't have it all his own way. It hasn't been a complete lights to flag, has it? Because he's been challenged all the way by Maximilian Gunther and Nick Cassidy in the early stages of the race, but once he got his nose in front and was able to bank those laps, he's done an extraordinary job. Maximilian Gunther then is 5.2 seconds to his disadvantage running in P2.
And the Prema boys will look back on this race later on today and think to themselves, quite fortunate that that incident earlier on in the race when Stroll made the dive down the inside of the Mercedes corner into Gunther, they went side into each other. They're going to think themselves very fortunate they came away with no damage.
Could have been 2 cars out, couldn't it?
Could have absolutely been.
So this is Nick Cassidy then running in P3 for Prema Power Team, and it's going to be another solid podium place currently for Nick Cassidy. We've got 2 laps of the race left to run. The first of 3 FIA Formula 3 European Championship races to round out the season here at Hockenheim. Around the Parabolica now goes Nick Cassidy.
And I just saw out of the window for more of a position for pride than anything else, but Harrison Newey's just taken Pedro Piquet actually across the line for 16th place.
I was speaking to Harrison Newey so once again this battle locks up between Hughes and Hubert. As they go into the hairpin, Hughes going to try and get the switch back now, and this is when Hubert he needs all the momentum that he can possibly find, but Jake Hughes is not going to give an inch here as they go into the right-hander next, but Hubert's going to have the inside for the next turn. Is Hughes far enough ahead? No, he's not.
And that's what I was kind of mentioning earlier on. Hughes took a much tighter line coming into that corner. Okay, in this instance, it didn't work out for him. He's actually lost out the position again to Hubert, but it was Hubert really had to work for that.
Trying to buy into that, of course, as they slow in battle between themselves is Nikita Mazepin and also George Russell. You can just see in the number 12 car is a lock-up from Nikita Mazepin. Is that going to advantage George Russell as we start the final lap now for the race-leading Prema Power Team car of Lance Stroll? A jaw-dropping race from Lance Stroll, who's now 6 seconds to the good as he starts his final lap now. Parabolica goes. Lance Stroll heading up towards the hairpin. Just look at the gap before you can see. Well, don't even see Maximilian Gunther into that shot. That's the dominance of Lance Stroll up front.
I think, to be fair, Gunther's probably I think he's just taking his foot off the pedal now as well. He's 2nd place. He's got no challenge from behind from Nick Cassidy, who himself is 2 seconds ahead of Ralph Aron and just easing himself towards a 1, 2, 3, 4 finish for Prema Power Team in this race.
Yes, and it's going to be Moto Park that take the next.
Oh my word, a massive accident for Jake Hughes as he goes over the back of Antoine Hubert coming into the hairpin. That is I think he's done for the day.
Well, that was a huge lock-up, wasn't it? And he couldn't scrub the speed. And over the back of the Antoine Hubert car. And, Jake Hughes out. But this is Lance Stroll, who's going to go for the win with some style and with some comfort as well as he rounds the final turn and he heads for the checkered flag to see it first yet again. Lance Stroll, another commanding performance, takes the win here at Hockenheim. Maximilian Gunther will cross the line to take P2. Then it's going to be Nick Cassidy for P3. And Ralph Aron will take P4. But wow, into the hairpin. That was Hughes, just with much too much speed, was never going to be able to scrub that off and over the back of Antoine Hubert. Now, Hubert was still running.
Now, I'd be interesting to see a replay.
Hubert has crossed the line.
He got away with that. I'd be interested to see a replay of that because Jake Hughes overcooked it somewhat coming into the hairpin. But it'd be interesting to see Hubert's braking point as well, just to see if there was a correlation there. Yeah, Jake. He's just locked up, and that's a big shunt. How on earth Hubert got away with that?
Well, do you know what? Having looked at that in replay, I think Jake was diving for the inside, and actually, Hubert only began to...
Yes, Hubert's made a turn into the corner after Jake Hughes has committed himself.
He has committed himself, and he realises and he locks up, but there is absolutely nothing he can do. So he'd made the commitment to go for that, hadn't he?
Yeah.
And then Hubert turned in, and he thought, "Whoa, I've got a break here," and there was nothing he could do about that. Well, thankfully, Jake is completely undamaged, and he's out of the car all okay. But having now seen that in replay, you could see Hubert then turn in, couldn't you?
Yeah, absolutely, and that's.
Oh.
That's all I have. Hubert took 10th place, so of course in the end it actually means nothing because the 5-place penalties actually dropped him down to 14th anyway, and it promotes Guan Yu Zhu to 10th overall. That was a big incident. for both Jake Hughes and Antoine Hubert. But I'm really very surprised that I'd like to go down into the paddock after this race and see that Antoine Hubert car didn't really get away undamaged.
Well, he certainly, because I was concerned whether he was going to, whether he was going to cross the line, but he did. As we see super slow mos then of the race winner, Lance Stroll.
Hubert did lose 6 seconds on that final lap. Of course, he lost some time, as we see Luca Baldassarri there, who's kind of coaching Lance Stroll to a degree with Lawrence Stroll, Lance's father. And wonderful result there for Lance Stroll, 6.2 seconds advantage over Maxi Gunther, who, with that result, solidifies second in the championship, Dave.
Yes.
Nick Cassidy completing the podium, third place, 4.4 behind Gunther. With Aaron, consistent drive. He's the top rookie in this race. He finishes fourth overall. With Sergio Sette Camara, fifth place, 18.8 behind the race winner, as Lance Stroll comes into the number one position in Parc Fermé. Maxi Gunther to his right, Nick Cassidy already there to his left. Faultless performance by the Prema guys today.
Absolutely, they have just got it absolutely nailed, haven't they?
But again, one must reiterate, they're going to look back at that early incident early in the race.
I think we got away with that.
Yeah, absolutely. As Gunther gets out of the car, thumbs up. He knows he's got his second in the championship. And Lance taking yet another race victory in the 2016 FIA European Formula 3 Championship.
Excellent stuff. Drivers there being congratulated.
And that's a good result, actually, too, for Nick Cassidy in third place. He was 23 points behind George Russell in the battle for third in the championship. And that brings him, promotes him, that's so 15 points for third place. Cassidy with 242 points. Russell finished seventh, that's only 6. So the gap is now 14 points, I believe, between Russell and Cassidy in the championship.
Well, there is the championship, 457 points, plays 314, 266 for George Russell, 242 for Nick Cassidy, 226 for Callum Eilert, who sadly we lost out of that race. He retired earlier on, as did Lando Norris and Mikkel Jensen as well.
So, been a wonderful lot of action, especially in the early stages of that race. And it was, again, a flying incident, shall we say, that bookended the races there.
Super slow-mos now of the top three. Nick Cassidy for Prema Power Team then, who banks the final step on the podium. P2 goes the way of Maximilian Gunther, who we will see in shot now. There he is, Maximilian Gunther then, who in the end finished some 6.2 seconds down on our race leader, Lance Stroll. So Maximilian Gunther then, a solid second place finish for him, and P2 step on the podium. But a supreme performance from Lance Stroll, who, as I mentioned just a few moments ago in the programme, he didn't have it all his own way and was under pressure right at the start of the race. But once he got his nose in front, and having got away with that incident scot-free, he then, like a bird of free, was just perfect lap after perfect lap, and in the end finishing with a margin of some 6.2 seconds over Maximilian Gunther in P2. Well, we've seen various states of celebration from the Prema Power Team, and quite rightly too, as Lance Stroll then on top of the car that's propelled him to yet another race win. He does it. And that all-black crash helmet with the signatures then of all his team, so he pays thanks to them for everything that they've done for him in what has been a supremely dominant season for him. And the dominance continues in the final round here at Hockenheim, and of the three races, he starts the way he means to go on, by finishing on a high, by taking the race win.
And he's got pole for race 2 later on today, and he's front row for race 3 tomorrow morning.
You'd be a very brave man to have a bet against it, wouldn't you?
Very, very, very brave, actually.
Or stupid.
And of course, Lance is moving on next year. It hasn't been announced exactly what he's going to be doing, but
from our side, it's immensely frustrating because, of course, all the rumours, we all know what we think is going to happen, but it hasn't been confirmed yet. But interesting, Lance is not going to Macau. Why, Lee? Why? Please tell me. The Macau GP that we're talking about is, of course, the sort of end of season Formula 3 fest, isn't it? But Lance is not going, Lee. Why?
Lance has been doing a lot of work with the Williams Formula 1 team.
Right.
A lot of simulator work.
Yes.
And some testing in a 2014 car, I believe.
Okay.
And, well, he has other duties now, so to speak.
Right.
And it's a great shame, I think, that Lance isn't going to be there, because Macau, they are part of the FIA World Cup, as it were. It almost feels a bit wrong that the European champion isn't going to be there. But you know what? It's going to be a wonderful race, and I think Stroll is just concentrating on what he's doing at the moment. And at the
So you've told me nothing, really, have you?
And I think what Lance is doing at the moment is going to collect the winning trophy for today's race.
Thank you.
I did that very well, didn't I?
You did. Considered a career in politics. Answered nothing. Top step of the podium for Lance Stroll, then.
And I have to just see David Kennedy down there as well, in a Prema jacket.
So Nick Cassidy, then.
There was Marco Asmer down there as well. He's a former F3 race winner and champion and driver coach now.
So then the anthem plays out for Lance Stroll. Trophy presentation's about to get underway. You were mentioning Marco Asmer as Bernd Schneider, the 5-time DTM champion, makes the trophy presentation to Lance Stroll. Bernd, of course, very much a Mercedes-Benz ambassador.
And, lots of Mercedes guests this weekend. Bernd Mailander here, Toto and Susie Wolff are here as well. And
there's Bernd, then, who was with us last night in the Mercedes-Benz held a hugely successful sim racing competition, which I had the privilege of voicing.
that was great.
It was chaos. I'll tell you what it did do, it proved just how good these sim racers are, because they trounced the DTM boys. But there we are, as trophies were all presented.
Maxi's going to be very happy with that.
Yeah. But it's just the pace that Stroll had. Extraordinary pace. Once he gets his nose in front, he is, So there is the man of the moment, Lance Stroll, then. What a season he has had. What next for this supremely talented young man? Well, we will try our level best to burrow away and bring you what news that we can find, but I suspect that not much is going to be confirmed. Thank you so much for watching. From Lee and myself, bye-bye for now.